Uh, Hi all, this is Sanchit Sethia. Welcome to this YouTube video, and today we are going to continue with the mulesoft playlist. And yeah, today's topic is API lifecycle in mulesoft. So before starting with the actual implementation and actual designing of the API, we should first understand the API lifecycle. So yeah, let's start that understanding. And yeah, to do that, I have created these notes that will be helpful. So I will be attaching these notes in the video description. So yeah, let us start. Now to understand the API lifecycle, the very first step in the API lifecycle is uh, requirement and analysis phase. So to understand the requirement and analysis phase, in this step, what we do is we start with the requirement with all the team, all the stakeholders that are involved in this project. We gather the requirement and we understand the business need, and after getting the requirement we first analyze the requirement and we try to come up with some proper implementation architecture. And yeah, we create high level design document, and if there are any mapping sheets required to be created, all those things we get. So once that phase is done, then it comes to the API lifecycle. Now the very first step is design phase. So everything, all of these things we will be able to do using Anypoint platform and Anypoint Studio. So very first thing is design phase. Now in this design phase, we try to we design the specification of the API, and there is a specific tool which we can use to design those specification, which is like API design center in Anypoint platform. So during the demo we will also see that part, but yeah, uh, API design center is basically used for this purpose. So as we can see in this image, very first step is design, and after that it is prototype. So once we have designed it, we would like to get some feedback on the design, whether we have created it correctly or not. So to do that, even we can have two we do have two ways to do that. One is the flow designer. So within the Anypoint platform, what we have is we have it is like a web-based tool, so similar to Anypoint Studio, which we saw in the last video. We have a flow designer in the Anypoint platform itself, where we can basically implement the actual API without using Anypoint Studio. And basically it is going to be used to create some small POCs or to validate some simple implementation. If we want to validate some things or some POCs we want to do before actual implementation, we can do it from this flow designer. And the other part of prototype is mocking service. So as we have already designed our API using API design center, we have created the specification, so we can mock the API. So right now we have not implemented the API, but we still want to know how the response will look like, or what kind of what is the request structure, what is the response structure, all those things. If we want to get a feel of it, we can use the mock service, and that mock service again is within this API design center itself. So during the demo we can see that as well. So yeah, that is also the part of API lifecycle. First it is design, then it is prototype. Once we mock any service or we create the flow using flow designer, after that we try to get some feedback from the stakeholders on our API specification. So to get the feedback, we do have API console to, to get the feedback. So uh, the users will be able to interact with the API, whatever we designed, whatever is the resource name, whatever is the method names, all those things, what is the request type, response type, all those things, the user will be able to understand it, and they can provide the feedback. So at this validation phase, we get the feedback, and like it is mentioned in this image, we get the feedback, and it is like an iterative approach. So if we get some feedback. Based on that, if we have to do some improvement in the API specification, then we go back again to the design phase, and then again prototype, and then again validate. So it is a recursive approach. So once we get the validation that yeah, it looks good, then we start with the actual development. So yeah, for development and testing, we do have Anypoint Studio. So Anypoint Studio, using Anypoint Studio, we can do the development. We can directly import the YAML from Design Center in the Anypoint Studio and start implementing our API, and also we can do the unit testing also. So unit testing tool, which is munit, is also uh, comes integrated inside this Anypoint Studio. So after we are done with development and testing, uh, the next phase is deployment phase. So for deployment, we have the runtime manager, which is again part of Anypoint platform. So basically, runtime manager is used to manage the mulesoft runtimes. So basically, mulesoft runtime is basically a runtime engine, or you can say container, on which mule applications are deployed and run. So this mule runtime can be on premise or cloud hub or RTF, and basically this particular mule runtime are configured and managed through this runtime manager, which is part of the Anypoint platform. So yeah, we can manage both the deployments and also mule runtime itself from this runtime manager. So after this deploy phase, the next phase is operate phase. So within this operate phase, basically once we are done with the deployment, we want to manage our APIs, we want to do the operational stuff with those APIs. So to do that, we have this API manager. So API manager is also part of Anypoint platform, and it is basically an API management tool, using which like organization can secure and restrict the access on the API. And basically it provides out of the box policies and policy creation if we want to use some custom policy. So all of these things we will see it in our demo. But yeah, just to let you know, these are the part of API lifecycle, and like within each phase of API lifecycle, there is a corresponding Anypoint platform component associated with it, which we will be able to use it. So yeah, this is API manager, where we can manage the API, we can apply the policies, all those things. And within the API manager, we have something called as API Anypoint Analytics also. So it is also part of API manager, and basically we can get the analytics for whatever APIs are already deployed and running. We can get the analytics for those particular APIs. So analytics could be something like request per date, like we want to see on some particular date how many requests came. We want to see number of requests per application, or we want to see number of requests per location. Similarly, there are some other analytics as well, which we will be able to explore during demo. But yeah, so this is also one of the phase. And then the last phase is publish phase, which so basically once we are done with the deployment, we are done with the development, we are done with the deployment, we have applied all those policies and everything. We want our API to be discoverable. So there are two ways to make our API discoverable, uh, and both of them are part of Anypoint platform only, API Exchange and API Portal. So both are almost similar, but let's first see the API Exchange. So API Exchange is basically used to publish whatever API we have created in design center. We can publish it in the exchange, and within that we will be within the API Exchange, we will be able to see the specification with the UI, and also we can also document that particular API. So it will be like that, like if any new user want to access or want to know about that particular API, that person can be able to do that using that API exchange. Now API portal is also similar to API exchange, but the only difference is API Anypoint Exchange is basically used internally within the organization. So suppose you are part of one of the team, you created some API, you published it to Anypoint Exchange. Now some other team also have similar requirement, so they go to your Anypoint Exchange and they see the documentation of that particular API, and they get to know like this particular API they will be able to reuse it in their business scenario. So yeah, they can reuse it like that. So that is basically internal to organization. Now API portal is also similar, all those features are same, but it will be external to the organization. So if you want to expose some API or make it discoverable outside your organization, then you can publish it to API portal. So yeah, all these life cycle, whatever we have discussed, this will continue for the next iteration based on the feedback we receive, even after publishing it, even after deploying it, all those steps. If we receive some further feedback, we need to do some improvement, then yeah, it is just like an iterative process. It will keep on repeating, starting from design till deployment or till operation or publishing. So yeah, that is all about API lifecycle. And yeah, that is all for today's video. So if you like this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. And thank you and have a great day.